This is the Ottawa Senators Outlook. Here is your host, Jack Henry.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ottawa Senators Outlook. I'm your host, Jack. This is my recap reaction to the Vancouver Canucks game, so let's get to it. So, no surprise here. Senators lose the game. They lose 4-3. In the first period, Jake DeBrusk scores on the power play to make it 1-0 Vancouver. In the second period, Brady Tkachuk on the power play to tie it at 1. Teddy Bluger to make it 2-1, and then Jake DeBrusk with his second goal of the game to make it 3-1, so that's all at the end of the second period. In the third period, Kiefer Sherwood scores to make it 4-1 Vancouver, and then on the power play, Claude Giroux scores to make it 4-2. Tim Stützle with 40-something seconds left with his 10th of the year, 4-3, and that's all. The goaltending matchup was Kevin Lankinen versus Ullmark, and same old stuff for the most part. Senators, there's a lot to take away from this game, and I'm not going to rant about it, although I was pretty pissed off about this game, and that really shouldn't surprise anybody, because I learned a lot about this core, if you even want to call them a core, because after the atrocity that was last night, I don't know what to make of this team, except that they are garbage, they're fragile, and they're not going to win anything. So they really got to step it up and see if they can figure it out, because right now I don't think they can, and this has nothing to do with coaching. Travis Green, obviously, like I said, I've had a ton of questions with his lineup movements, but other than that, this team is absolutely uncoachable. These guys are sick in the head with their egos, and they need to cut it out. Brady Tkachuk, especially with the captaincy. I mean, he fought Dakota Joshua at the end, and he went out there pouting like a little baby, and while he could have done that in maybe the first period when we actually had a chance of winning, he does it with 6 minutes when we're pretty much out of the game. And then, Giroux and Stützle with their Chris Paul goals as usual to make it an almost comeback to make the loss look not as ugly as it really was. So, Ottawa is at a crossroads, and they're struggling mightily right now. Everyone is underperforming outside of Stützle and maybe Tkachuk. Tkachuk maybe be at expectations because he's actually scoring, but the leadership has not been there, and I'm really starting to question it, even if he has any. Because if that's how he's going to act as a captain, I really think if you want to send a message, strip it at this point, because the message is not going through, and I don't think he's doing anything to do it. I don't care if it causes a ton of divide in the locker room, if he asks for a trade because of it. You got to do something. These players cannot be running the organization the way they are. And obviously, you had your old coach, DJ Smith, coddling these players. It's showing right here. He's at fault for it just as much as the players, and the players are not being held accountable enough where these guys will consistently run the team and keep making excuses for their horrible play. This season was up to the players, and the way they're playing right now, there's been no change from 2019 on. This is getting ridiculous. And if that's the case, they need to make a ton of trades. They need to break up this core in some capacity, because the way this is working, it is not. Thomas Chabot needs to go. Josh Norris needs to go. Drake Batherson, he's on the hot seat. I would even say a ton of other guys too. Jake Sanderson, playing like trash. Brady Tkachuk, acting like a baby. Tim Stützle is the only person that's actually playing good. Claude Giroux, Father Time's coming up. He's washed right now. So, something's got to change, and if it's not, you got to make trades, because we cannot be sitting here for the 6th straight year in this same position. It just can't happen. So, they need to break up this core, in my opinion, because at this point in time, you're never going to win with these guys, and these guys simply do not care about winning. The way they played, the Vancouver Canucks had no Demko. They lost Quinn Hughes early in the game to ejection. They lost Brock Besser, and they don't have JT Miller. And you're telling me these Vancouver Canucks are still running over us? Like, what are we doing here? I don't get it. This team, and I will say right now, they are not making the playoffs. I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs early this year because, again, the Buffalo Sabres and the Detroit Red Wings were the only two teams that were really fighting for it. I thought the Senators were better than those two teams, and I still stand by that. Detroit's not doing much better. They're pretty much where we are. Buffalo is on a bit of a cute run, but I don't know how sustainable that is. The Senators should have no excuse for being where they are right now. And even though I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs, back in September, they're definitely not making it now with how unbelievably stupid they're playing. What else is there to say? I mean, I'll leave it up to you guys, but 4-3 lost to the Vancouver Canucks with a ton of injuries, a ton of ejections, and JT Miller on personal leave absence. Oh, and by the way, let me get to Steve Staios this offseason. I was really critical of Steve Staios, and I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. His offseason moves, outside of maybe Nick Jensen, have been terrible. Linus Ullmark is not playing the way he needs to be, and you can blame the defensive coverage if you want for him, but the problem is he's going to be making over $8 million next year, and he needs to make saves. I don't care how poorly that defensive coverage is. He was doing good with some of the worst Buffalo Sabres teams I've seen. Why can't he do it with us? And I think it's not just maybe him. There's got to be other issues with it. But if you're making over $8 million, you got to play like it. On top of that, David Perron, I get the situation. But the problem is, he's out of that now. He's back with the team. How do you have 0 points, and you've played over 10 games at this point? He's out for half of the season so far. And look, I don't want to get too deep into his situation because that may have impacted most of the season. So I will give him a pass if I need to, but $4 million, he does not look worth it. Michael Amadio, the defense has been there, but he's not creating any offense. Noah Gregor's hurt, and Nick Cousins, who I liked at the time, but he's only making stupid penalties and not doing anything else. So Staios is not making right moves, and this really needs to change very quickly. So I don't know if we're going to get out of this. At some point, we have to win a game. I don't know when it's going to be. But the November Sens are back in session. They're 8-11-1 on the year. Through 20 games, they only have 17 points. And the Vancouver Canucks improved to 10-6-3 with a total of 23 points. We'll see if it changes. That's all I got to say. And if it doesn't, I'm done. All right? I'm done. You understand me? I'm done.
Thank you for watching this presentation of the Ottawa Senators Outlook. For more of this podcast, click on the videos on the left and subscribe by clicking on the icon on the right. Thank you.